A young fellow pulled a brand new rifle out of his truck at the check station last fall, still had the tag from the shop hanging off the trigger guard, and told me he'd finally bought the most accurate cartridge a man could own. $1,800, rifle and glass. Everybody's shooting it now, he said. It's what the champions win with. It's the flattest, most accurate thing going. His words, not mine. Now, I've chambered rifles in this same case family for 30 years. I've chronographed both of these cartridges over the same screens on the same afternoon. I've packed out deer and antelope killed clean with a mild little 6.5 that a lot of men would have called too light. And I know something the forum that sold that kid his caliber never told him. There's another cartridge, same case, same bullet, a hair more speed, that was winning national titles before his famous one was ever a drawing on a napkin. He already had the better answer available to him. It's older, it's cheaper, it's nearly the same round, and nobody ever told him to want it. He's not dumb. He didn't get cheated. He bought a genuinely fine cartridge. He just got sold a true thing wrapped around a false one, and that's exactly why I made this. So I'm going to take one cartridge apart, all the way down, against one simple standard, and I'll lay that standard out for you in a minute. But here's what you need to hear first. The cartridge I'm building this whole thing around is going to start arguments in the comments, because it breaks the rule the whole hunting internet lives by, that the thing everybody bought has to be the best thing. It is not the sexy new round everybody photographs at the range. It is not some oddball European number you can't pronounce. It's American. It's older than the famous one. It wears the very same case as the deer rifle half of this country already owns, and its own maker quietly walked away from it. Don't jump to the end for the name. The name won't mean a thing to you until you've watched it clear 2 bars and fail the third. And if you skip that, you'll prove me wrong for the exact reason I'm about to hand you myself. I'm Hank Mercer. 35 years I carried a badge as a game warden in the Montana backcountry, and I guided elk and bear hunts for a good while after. I've got nothing to sell you. There's no rifle in this for me, no gear, no link down below. I'm just here to keep you from thinking you got left behind by the crowd. Here's the standard, and it doesn't move for the rest of this video. Accuracy you can prove on paper is worth exactly nothing if you can't feed the rifle. So I'm not judging this cartridge on one thing. I'm running it against 3 bars, and it has to clear all 3. Bar 1, does it group? Can it shoot? Bar 2, does it last? Barrel life, recoil, the stuff that lets you practice enough to actually hit something. Bar 3, can you feed it? Can you walk into a store and buy a box and get a rifle chambered for it without a custom order? Group, last, feed. Every single thing I say from here gets run against those 3. No exceptions. And I'll tell you who the villain is, because it isn't a man and it isn't a company you can hate clean. It's the calendar. The business needs a new best cartridge every few years, and it needs the old one to quietly disappear off the shelf so you'll buy the new one. That's not a conspiracy. That's just how the money works. Every section from here answers the same 5 questions, in the same order. What's the claim? What do the real numbers say? How does it score? Group, last, or feed? What's the wrinkle nobody tells you? And what changes about the next piece? So let's start with what this thing actually is, because most folks have never even heard its name said out loud. It's the 260 Remington. And all it has ever been, is a .308 Winchester case, necked down to hold a 6.5 bullet. A 264 bullet, same as the famous one. Same case head, same rim as your .308. The case runs about 0.02 of an inch longer than a plain .308, wears the same 20-degree shoulder it inherited from its daddy, and that's the whole recipe. If you own a .308 or a .243 or a 7mm .08, you already own a cousin of this cartridge. They're all the same case, just necked to different bullets. A barrel swap is all that separates them. Now, why does a case like that shoot? Because it's short, it's efficient, and it burns a modest charge of powder behind a long, heavy for its diameter 6.5 bullet. That's the same reason the whole .308 family has thrown so many tack drivers over the last 70 years. Uniform powder column, even ignition, and recoil so mild it doesn't jerk you off the target before the bullet's gone. Against bar 1, does it group? This thing passes on its bones before we've fired a shot. It was born accurate. Here's the wrinkle, though, and it's a good one. This wasn't Remington's idea, not even close. Shooters had been building this exact cartridge by hand for about 40 years before Remington ever put its name on it. A fellow named Ken Waters worked up his version back in 1956 and called it the 263 Express. A gunwriter named Jim Carmichael built his own, called it the 6.5 Panther, and leaned on Remington to make it a real, standardized cartridge. And when it finally went to Sammy, that's the outfit that standardizes cartridge dimensions so every box works in every rifle, it wasn't even Remington that filed first. A little company called A-Square, run by a fellow named Arthur Alphen, submitted the drawings months ahead of them. The round was very nearly named the 6.508 A-Square instead of the 260 Remington. Now, I'll be straight with you. I don't know exactly why Remington got the name in the end, and I'm not going to pretend the record is clean on it. But that's the pedigree. 40 years a handloader's darling before it ever hit a shelf. So the accuracy was baked in from the start, from men who built it a bullet at a time because they wanted the best. The question is whether the paper actually backs that up against the cartridge that supposedly buried it. That's next. Because here's the claim that gets people worked up, and I want to test it cold. That famous cartridge, the 6.5 Creedmoor, I'll go ahead and name it since you already guessed it, everybody says it's more accurate, flatter, better. So let's put the two of them side by side on paper, same bullet, and see what's actually true. Take a 140 grain bullet, the sweet spot for both. Out of a 24-inch barrel, the 260 Remington leaves the muzzle right around 2750 feet per second. The 6.5 Creedmoor, same bullet weight, leaves around 2700 to 2710. Read that again. The old cartridge is the faster one, by 40, maybe 50 feet per second, because it holds a touch more powder. Not a lot, but it's ahead, not behind. And that speed shows up downrange. Zero them both at 200 yards. That 140 grain out of the 260 drops about 8 inches at 300 and just under 49 inches at 500. The Creedmoor, same conditions, drops about 9 inches at 300 and closer to 54 inches at 500. The 260 shoots flatter. The one everybody calls flatter is, on the numbers, the flatter one is the old one. Against bar 1, does it group? The 260 doesn't just pass, it arguably wins. And inside 500 yards, where near every honest big game shot in this country happens, no deer that ever lived could tell you which one hit it. Now here's the honest half, and I won't dodge it, because if I pretend these two are identical, a sharper man than me will call it a lie, and he'll be right. The Creedmoor does have a real edge, and it isn't speed. It's geometry. Its case is about 5% shorter, and most Creedmoors come with a faster barrel twist, one turn in 8 inches, where a lot of 260 rifles came 1 in 9. That shorter case and faster twist let the Creedmoor handle the very longest, highest-tech match bullets, the 147 grain jobs with a ballistic coefficient near 700, and seat them out where they belong without stuffing them down into the powder. Run a normal 140 grain hunting bullet and it's a wash, or the 260's nose ahead. Reach for the heaviest modern target bullets at extreme range, and the Creedmoor pulls ahead. Not because the 260 can't do it, but because most 260 rifles were never built to. That's real. That's not marketing. Both things are true at once. And I'll say it plain about my numbers, too. Those drop figures come from published tables under one set of conditions, not a head-to-head I ran myself over a chronograph. The direction holds up across every source I've checked. The exact inch is not gospel. I'm not going to pretend it is. If you'd rather have the numbers run honest, including the part that cuts against my own argument, then the version the ad copy hands you, subscribe. That's the whole channel right there. So it groups with anything in its class, and it beats its famous replacement on raw speed. If accuracy were the whole story, the 260 would have won, and we wouldn't be talking. It didn't win. So the next two bars have to explain why, and the first of those is whether the Creedmoor at least outlasts it. That's next. Bar 2. Does it last? This is where a cartridge earns its keep over a lifetime, not a season. And it comes down to two things: what it does to your shoulder and what it does to your barrel. Start with recoil, because recoil is where accuracy is quietly won or lost. The 260 Remington kicks about 13 foot-pounds in an 8-pound rifle. To place that for you, a 243 runs around 11, and a 308 runs up around 20. So the 260 sits low and gentle, right between them. And the Creedmoor? Essentially the same, 12 to 14. There is no daylight between these two on recoil. None worth arguing. Why does that matter more than it sounds? Because a rifle that doesn't punish you is a rifle you'll actually practice with. A man flinches when a gun hurts him, and a flinch will throw a shot worse than any ballistic coefficient will ever fix. Low recoil means you can call your own shot, see where the crosshair was when it broke. That, right there, is where real field accuracy lives. Not on the box, in the reps you'll actually put in. Then there's the barrel. Both these cartridges burn a moderate charge behind an efficient 6.5 bore, and that means long barrel life next to the overbore magnums that scorch a throat out in 600 or 700 rounds. That was the whole point of a 6.5 from the start. High sectional density, a 140-grain .264 bullet carrying a number around .287, which means it penetrates deep and straight for the mild recoil you paid. Deep, straight, and easy on the shoulder. Against bar 2, the 260 passes clean, and it's dead even with the Creedmoor. Nobody wins this one. It's a tie. Now here's where fairness matters more than loyalty, and I mean that. It would be easy to stand here and paint the Creedmoor as some cynical copy that fooled everybody. It wasn't. The 6.5 Creedmoor was built in 2007 by a Hornady ballistician named Dave Emery and a national champion shooter named Dennis DeMille, and they built it to a real, honest wish list. Fit a short magazine, kick soft, throw the high-coefficient bullets, don't burn out barrels, and print the load recipe right on the box for the hand loaders. They did the homework. They did it well. The Creedmoor is a genuinely excellent cartridge, and I'm not here to tell you otherwise. I'm here to tell you it isn't more accurate than the thing it replaced. And here's the part that ought to make you grin. When DeMille went looking for a starting point to design it, the cartridge he built the Creedmoor off of, the shoulder he stood on, was the 260's own family. The new king was drawn up using the old one as the reference. That's the record, not my opinion. One straight word on those recoil figures. They're calculated for a given rifle weight and load, not chronographed off your rifle. Yours will vary a little with weight and powder. Treat them as a class figure, not a promise. So, it groups the same, it lasts the same, it kicks the same. 2 bars down and the old cartridge has either won or tied every one of them, which means the entire reason one of these is in every gun store in America and the other is a ghost has to come down to the 3rd bar. Can you feed it? And that's where this story stops being about ballistics and starts being about something else entirely. That's next. Bar 3. Can you feed it? And I'll tell you up front, so far this has been all upside, so here's where the honesty has to kick in because this is the bar the 260 fails. Not narrowly, badly. Start with the maker. Remington invented this cartridge, put its own name on it, and in recent years Remington quit loading it. The company that built it walked away from it. I'll say that carefully because Remington's been through the ringer as a business and the details move around, so by most every availability tracker I can find, their own factory 260 ammunition is gone. Let that land. The name on the head stamp doesn't make the ammo anymore. The others haven't all quit. Federal, Hornady, Nosler, Barnes still load it, but they load a handful of options where they'll load 24 for the Creedmoor. And it's been that way since the 20-teens, thin and getting thinner. When you can find it, the 260 often runs cheaper per box than the Creedmoor, and that sounds like a win until you understand why. It's cheaper because almost nobody's buying it. That's not a bargain, that's a clearance rack. Here's the mechanism, the actual reason a cartridge this good dies commercially without ever failing on paper. A hunting cartridge lives or dies on one thing, whether a man can walk into a store the night before the opener and buy a box that fits his rifle. That's it. The Creedmoor can promise you that in all 50 states. The 260 can't, not anymore. And it was never even a fair fight because of how each one was launched. Hornady rolled the Creedmoor out with the rifle makers and the match circuit all lined up, factory hunting ammo, match ammo, and target ammo, all on the shelf, day one. Remington launched the 260 back in '97 as a hunting round and not much more. Put it in a short-barreled Model 7 with a slow twist that held its velocity down, never chambered it in their target rifle, never offered a serious match load. One cartridge showed up to the party with everything it needed. The other showed up half-dressed and got left. The 260 didn't lose the accuracy race. It lost the supply chain. Now, the wrinkle, and this is me keeping my own title honest. When I say nobody uses it, I don't mean it's extinct. I mean it the way you'd say nobody drives a stick anymore. Somebody does. Every big maker still loads at least a box or two. The auction sites are full of good used and custom 260s, and there's a stubborn crowd of handloaders keeping it alive on their own benches. It isn't dead, it's orphaned. There's a difference, and I'm not going to oversell you the funeral. And one more honest word, availability moves, and it's regional. What's true on my shelf this month might loosen or tighten by the time you go looking. Check for yourself. If a breakdown that'll tell you the downside of the very thing it's recommending is what you came here for, this is the place. That's the second time I've asked. It'll be the last for a while. So the loss is real, and it's got nothing to do with how the cartridge shoots. It's the catalog, not the cartridge. Which raises the one question this whole thing has been walking toward. If it's this good, if it groups and lasts and beats the famous one on speed, who ever actually proved it? Where's the receipt? That's next. Because a claim like mine can't just live on drop charts. Somebody had to win with this thing, cold, under pressure, against the best. And somebody did. From about 2000 to 2012, the 260 Remington was one of the dominant cartridges in serious precision competition before the Creedmoor came along and took that crowd. That's the window. And the receipt with a name on it. In 2010, a shooter named Sherry Gallagher won the NRA High Power National Championship shooting a 260 Remington and set a national record doing it. A national title. A record. Against the best rifle shooters in the country, at distance, with the wind blowing and no second chances. That's the record, not my opinion. And it's worth saying what that record is and what it isn't. It's one championship, And I'm not standing here telling you the 260 beats the Creedmoor across every match ever fired. It doesn't, and the Creedmoor's won plenty since. The point is narrower than that, and it's bulletproof. Nobody gets to call this cartridge unproven. It was proven at the highest level there is. It even runs deeper than that one title. The long-range legend David Tubb was winning national championships on this cartridge's own Wildcat family before Remington ever standardized it. The bloodline was winning before the cartridge had a name. So how did the better proven, faster, flatter round end up the Ghost? Not a conspiracy. Better product strategy, plain and simple, and I won't sneer at it. Hornady built the whole world around the Creedmoor. The rifles, the ammo, the matches, the following. Remington built the 260, a nice cartridge, and then more or less lost interest inside a few years. Convict the strategy gap. Don't convict the man who bought the Creedmoor. He bought the one that was there. Which brings us to the only question that matters to you, standing in the store with your own money in your hand. Knowing all this, what should you actually do? And here's where the honesty has to be sharpest, because the answer depends entirely on who you are. If you already own a 260 Remington, hear me clear. You own a genuinely superb deer and antelope rifle, a proven tack driver, and you should feed it and quit apologizing to anybody at the range. Nothing on a shelf shoots meaningfully better than what's already in your safe. If you hand-load your own ammunition, the 260 is arguably the smarter pick, flat out. The components are common, the brass runs cheaper, the case is a hair more efficient, and you sidestep the one weakness the cartridge has, the store shelf, because you're standing at your own bench making exactly what you want. For a reloader, this is one of the best-kept honest deals in the 6.5 world. But, and here's the most important honest thing in this whole video, so I'm not going to hide it, even though it undercuts my own title. If you're a new buyer who doesn't reload, and you want a box in your hand the night before the season opens, buy the Creedmoor. Don't feel talked into a thing, because for you, the cartridge you can actually find beats the one that's a hair better on paper every single time. Availability beats ballistics for the man who doesn't own a reloading press. The 260 is more accurate on paper and the wrong answer for a whole lot of you, and both of those are true at the same time, and any man who tells you different is selling you something. I already told you I'm not. And the folks who bought Creedmoors? They weren't wrong. They bought the one that's on the shelf, the one that's proven, the one that shoots beautiful. That's not a mistake. That's good sense. So let's put the whole thing back together. What it is, a 308 neck down to 6.5, 40 years a handloader's Wildcat before Remington ever named it. Does it group? Yes, and it beats the Creedmoor on speed and drop with a 140 grain bullet. Does it last? Yes. Mild recoil, long barrel life, dead even with the famous one. Can you feed it? No, and its own maker quit loading it. Was it ever proven? A national championship and a record in 2010. And what you do about it depends on whether you reload. Here's the honest restatement, smaller and truer than the title I hung on this. The 260 Remington isn't a secret weapon, and it isn't a victim either. It's the right answer to a question almost nobody's allowed to ask anymore. A cartridge that did everything right on the range and lost everything at the counter. It isn't hiding because it's bad. It's hiding because it's inconvenient. That's the whole story. So here's the part worth writing down, the only part you need to carry out of here. 1. Already own a 260? You own a superb deer and antelope rifle. Feed it and quit apologizing. 2. Handload your own? The 260's the slightly smarter, slightly cheaper, slightly faster pick. Build on it with confidence. 3. New buyer, don't reload? Buy the Creedmoor. For you, availability is accuracy, and there's no shame in it. 4. Either way, Learn to call your own shot. The cartridge was never what was holding you back at distance. You were. That's the honest one. And the coda, the thing that undercuts my own premise and is truer than it. The most accurate cartridge in this whole video is the one you can actually buy a box of the night before the opener. For most of you, that's going to be the Creedmoor. And I just spent this whole time telling you the other one shoots a hair better. Both of those are true, and a grown man can hold both of them in his head at once. If I could only keep 3 out of this whole conversation, I'd keep a .260 for the bench and the pure accuracy of the thing. I'd keep a plain .308 in the same family because I can buy ammo for it in a gas station in the middle of nowhere. And I'd keep a Creedmoor because I would rather be right about the shelf than right about the paper on the morning it actually counts. Those aren't the 3 best, they're the 3 honest ones. Here's what I'd carry out of the timber on this. The best cartridge is the one that's in your rifle and on the shelf when you need it, not the one that wins the argument at camp. So let me ask you something, and be honest, because it costs a little. What's actually chambered in your main rifle right now? And did you pick it because it shoots best, or because it was the one everybody else was buying? No wrong answer. I just want the true one. And somebody reading this is standing in a shop this week picking their first serious rifle, trying to decide. A straight word from a man who's run both of these beats any chart I could hand him. If that's you, in the comments, give it to him straight. If you want the version that tells you when the popular thing is just fine and when it isn't, no hype, no thing to sell you, subscribe. That's all this channel does. Next time, I'm turning this whole thing on its head. The cartridges everybody swears are obsolete, dead, done. The ones that'll still outshoot the new hotness clean inside the range you actually hunt. One of them is probably already sitting in your safe, and you've been told to be embarrassed about it. You shouldn't be. Shoot straight and be honest with yourself about the range. See you next week.